You need facts, figures, scores, and scoops, and the truth.
Shaun Bartlett here, and I've got the honor and privilege of speaking and interviewing former captain and Bafana player Neil Tovey. How are you doing, Neil?
Yeah, well, Shaun, thanks, man. Good.
Yeah,
Good
what
day
have
in
you been up
Durban.
to? Hey?
Sunny day in Durban, playing a bit of bowls, playing a bit of golf,
Uh,
and
uh, is
trying
that
to
is
sort
that
my
your
life
is that your is that your other passion?
out. Bowls is unbelievable. Bowls is
Yeah.
really taken to it. That's everybody thinks it's old man's marbles, but a
Mm.
lot of youngsters are taking up the game, and I really find it intricate.
It's a very
Nice.
technical game, isn't it?
Yes, people think it's just putting next to the jack, but now if you
Yeah.
play at the higher level, and I'm coming to Cape Town in March. I play the interprovincial
All right.
tournament in Cape Town in March, so
Mm.
you must come down and have a look.
So you could actually make a national team in another sporting code, huh? Is
Yeah,
that the
maybe
goal?
one day, maybe one day, maybe one day. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've only been bowling
Cool. Yeah.
3-4 years and not been long, so yeah.
Okay. Well, to be honest, that's what I thought of about golf. I thought it was an old man sport as well until I took it up.
Yeah,
So I think a lot of
yeah,
things have
but
changed.
unbelievable game. Sport is a wonderful, wonderful tool.
Mm. Talking about change, obviously, growing up in Durban, you played a lot of sports, even now with bowls and golf. What sports did you play in Durban growing up?
Well, I was fortunate to live on the beachfront where there were a number of fields around us. So there was baseball fields,
Yeah.
football fields, cricket fields. All of them were around us. So
Mm.
in my school days, I was really fortunate to play for my province in 5 different sports:
Okay.
hockey, baseball, softball, soccer, and cricket. So yeah, but football was always my first love.
So the baseball and softball must be the reason why you're so good at golf.
I just knew it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
look, I mean,
hand-eye
you need an eye,
coordination.
Yeah, but golf is the ball doesn't move, so
Mm. Mm.
the rest of the sport, all the balls move, which makes it a little bit more interesting. Yeah,
Mm. So at what
golf
age?
should be easy.
Yeah. So
Golf should be easy.
at what age did you realize that football could be a career or there's a profession in the pipeline?
For a profession, maybe only a little bit in my teens, because as you
Okay.
know, my brother Mark was a
Mm.
professional footballer already
Yeah.
with Durban United, Durban City, and Dynamos in those days. So, and in those days, it wasn't a fully fledged professional
Yeah.
sport.
Mm.
A lot of the guys had their own personal business and jobs,
Yeah.
and then just went to training, but got paid for the wonderful sport.
Yeah, I remember, and I've told many people who actually didn't realize, in the old NSL, we had to work 9 to 5, and then you had to train in the evening and play matches whenever the team were obviously involved. So you had to balance the two quite well.
Yeah, it was. I was quite very very fortunate that where I was, they were very easy towards me traveling and playing, and
Yeah.
I was very very fortunate. I was very very
Mm.
fortunate.
So after you spending a bit of time at Amazulu and Durban City, you went to Chiefs. How was that experience as a beginner?
Yeah, I was very very lucky. When I was in 1989, when I was about to leave, I had the likes of Cosmos, Morocco
Mm.
Swallows, where Louis Lake
Mm.
was a part owner. And Sundowns were interested in me. But when Mark was at Chiefs, and when he heard that was happening, then he says, "There's no ways." He went to Kaiser and said, "We need to get Neil." And
Mm.
that was so. I went up in early 1990. I went to Johannesburg, and yeah, I was fortunate to play for Chiefs for the whole decade of the 90s.
Mm. Can you remember off the top of your head how many trophies you won in that time?
Oh, that's when Chiefs were winning trophies. Yeah, I must have won 20.
Mm.
Around 20 trophies, yeah. It was every year there was a trophy. Our
Yeah.
most successful years were the early 90s, where where we won every trophy in '92 except Coca-Cola, where we lost Amazulu, unfortunately, to Clive. But then, as you know, when we became international, playing in the international front, Chiefs players were sought after, and the likes of Lucas, Farney, Shoes, Steve Compella, Ace Kuze, they all went overseas, went overseas to play. So we lost abundance of our players that were the senior base players. So it was basically left to me just to help sort of bring the experience to the youngster, the Taubo Morkeys, the Bangladesis, those type of players. And we still won trophies. We still won trophies, even though the squad. The national team at one stage had about 7 or 8 players in it in the early '92, as you know. And but suddenly they were gone. They were gone overseas. And then Lucas and they all went overseas. So unfortunately, whereas other teams were losing 1 or 2 players, Phil Masinga, and the likes of Mark Fish. Then also a little bit later went overseas. But they were only losing 1 at a time. We lost an abundance in one short while. Sure. We lost a lot of players.
You obviously mentioned a name there early in your conversation who had a big impact on my career as well, Clive Barker. And even from amateur days in Durban. What impact did he have on your life?
Yeah, I was very, very fortunate. In the early, there used to be competition where you played provincial football as a youngster. And Clive took the one under 16 team. And so that's when I met Clive in the early days. And then not just very soon after that, when I went to the army, unfortunately. And fortunately and unfortunately. And then in the army, I happened to also be recruited by Durban City. I was a semi-pro before I went. I was playing in as a youngster for Durban City in the reserve team, and then went to the army. And then in the army, I joined Durban City in 1981, and then finished my army career '82. So I came back to Durban City. So and Clive was there, and in my early professional career, we won 2 league championships with Durban City with Clive. Should have won the 3rd. We were robbed of it. We were robbed against Swallows in the last match.
Don't hold back.
We drew 2. Yeah, those days. We drew 2-2 with a late penalty, and Chiefs won the league that year, but we only lost it on goal difference. Yeah.
Okay. So obviously, everybody knows Neil Tovey as Mkuku. Where is that from Durban, or did it come at Chiefs? Because in the old days, everybody had nicknames, and nowadays that thing has sort of disappeared. Why do you think that is?
It didn't come from my Durban days. In my Durban days, I'm a Zulu. They used to call me Pikoko.
Oh, Peacock. Okay.
Peacock in the midfield. And then when I went to Chiefs, I had a number of different nicknames. A nickname of Chiefs in the early days of Bafana. One was contraceptive.
Oh, explain to us what that means.
Well, they said nothing went past me, so.
That's a good one.
Which I don't know. I don't know if they were really looking at the right games, but anyway.
Yeah.
But then it stuck, and the cuckoo stuck, and and I enjoyed it. As you say, it was an honor. If you get given a nickname, it was certainly an honor, because then you're doing something
Definitely. Right. Yeah, and those days also the stadiums were always packed, wasn't it? Nowadays it seems to be the opposite.
Yeah, they were packed stadiums. Full houses, and Chiefs commanded full houses. Every match, there wasn't less than 50,000 or whatever the stadium.
Even sitting on the field, next to the field.
Next to the field, and in the pathways where you walk, the walkways were full as well. So there was really wonderful days where the fans really flocked to the stadium, and whether it's bad or good, TV's taken over, and the fans have an abundance of games to view on a particular
Yeah.
afternoon. So
Yeah.
less than one way that you can sit in your lounge and enjoy a couple of games.
Yeah.
But sorry for the players, because the atmosphere is not quite there like it used to be, and the passion for the game and it's not quite there like it used to be, I don't think.
So, talking about obviously the fans and the amount of games you played in that, and I still believe, football is a game of results. And I think we've seen recently also with Chiefs, when they win games, suddenly the next couple of games they get a bit of crowd. Surely the results has got to be part of the reason why there are not so many fans in the stadium.
Yeah, I think so. You can see Sundowns have increased their fan base, and they're winning lots of games, so they've certainly increased their fan. Yeah, people associate themselves as winners, and then in the new millennium, the new youngsters of today are watching Sundowns strut their stuff, and so they kind of have sort of angled their way to being Sundown supporters, and a few have gone to Pirates now that Pirates are getting a lot more success back. In the past, it was very a family affair. Chiefs, the father figure in the family, if he was a Chief supporter, the family were Chief supporters. Not like today. They sort of all they can be in a household three different groups of supporters.
Yeah. So you played in the midfield, you played in defense, but you ended up with the number 9 shirt. I couldn't get the number 9 when I got to national team. So when did that happen?
Yeah, that happened when I went to Chiefs. I used to wear number 6 in Amazulu.
Yeah.
And a little bit of 8 in Durban City. Different numbers, But when I went to Chiefs, Mark McGenna the year before was playing in number 9.
Okay.
And every player sort of had their number, and that's how they. So when Mark McGenna left in 1990, number 9 became available, and they just issued it to me, and that was with me from my early days at Chiefs, and I did score a few goals for Chiefs, unlike Bafana, where my job wasn't really to score. But I scored a good number of goals for Chiefs and enjoyed it. And even when my first game for the national team, not many people knew this, that I wore 7. I wore 7. And Muffa and Marks Mapnyani wore 9. And at Chiefs, Marks was 7 and I was 9. So in the very next international game, I went across to 9, and Marks Mapnyani went to 7. So the national team, then I just stayed with 9. So that's how that sort of happened.
So when did the whole coaching idea come into your head? Obviously, post football, you became a coach for a few years.
I was already very much that way inclined when I was with Durban City, playing with them in my early days. Kevin Moody and I took an under-16 team, coached an under-16 team. And in our first season, we won the league and the cup. So from those early days, it was really inclined with me to pick up on what coaches bring, and then just transform it into your own coaching methodology, And then over the years, as I went through the abundance of coaches that I had, and just took and it's important for up and coming coaches to then identify and not copy coaches. You identify with coaches, and as you play, I just took the good points of the drills and skills from the various coaches. I would take that skill or that drill or whatever the coaching lesson subject, and then try to think, okay, how would I adapt it? When I was playing, I was already thinking that way. I didn't just start thinking as a coach. So I was looking at training sessions and how I could adapt it and make it better and make it flow better and what my thoughts were on it. So I was already thinking along those lines when I was coaching, when I was playing. So when I came out of, officially retired in 1990, year 2000, 99, 2000. And then I just took it up and went and ran with it, you know.
So obviously a big memory for myself and the whole country at this moment is still 29 years ago, winning the AFCON. I think it was about a week ago, on the 3rd of February. It happened in 1996.
29 years. 29 years.
Getting older.
Yeah, and I must also really then, before I can continue, I must also 29 years, and we've lost a few persons in the makeup of that team, and so obviously you've got to, you know, may their souls rest in peace, the likes of Philemon, Sizwe, John Moyeti, Clive, Shoes, and you know, and assistant coach Phil. So you know,
and
so
former singer.
And former singer, as I mentioned. So hats off to those guys, and they're really in a nice space. So, and I kind of survived them. I've survived them. I had my own scare, but I survived.
I know, obviously, part of the reason why, but I'd like to know from your side, being the captain in that tournament, what would you contribute the success of us winning that tournament?
I think, you know, we gained a hell of a lot of momentum in the year before, in 1995. It just didn't happen in the tournament. Obviously, I can chat a bit about the tournament and the experiences. But I think we really got our mojo a little bit in 95 when we had that African tournament. I think it was the Simba African Four Nations.
The Simba Four Nations,
Four Nations, where we played the likes of Zambia and those guys in Ghana, I think it was, and really held our own and won that tournament in 95. So there we played the likes of some African opposition. Then played Argentina and the 1-1 draw with Argentina when, you know, it was they only scored a late penalty to salvage a draw against us. And that gave us really self-belief and belief in ourselves. And that led to the game, our last game before we played the tournament, the AFCON in 96, the game in December in 95 against Germany. And drew 0-0, and that was Klinsmann, and all those greats were based in that team. And so that kind of gave us a really, really good belief. And what people maybe haven't identified with was we played African opposition. We played South American opposition, very skillful on the ball opposition, and European opposition in Germany. So across the spectrum in our group, we had the likes of Egypt, who were very, very much a European-based kind of team that would play. They were very close to Europe, and they had sort of adopt that style of play. Angola, they could have, you know, a little bit of South American flair to them, and then the Cameroonians, you know, that African flair. So we sort of kind of, without maybe even knowing it, in our preparation, sort of was a good preparation for across the spectrum of different culture of play, you know, types of play. And so when it came to the tournament, I think we were well prepared and a very enthusiastic bunch. And I really have to be honest, if you had to ask me at the beginning of that tournament, if we could win it, everybody goes into playing a tournament or playing a series of matches thinking, oh, we'll win it. No. Ours was very much, let's get past the next game, you know, and grow as a team, which we did. And I think that opening game, which was an emphatic 3-0 win, really helped us on course. You know, suddenly you're playing Cameroon, who are perennial winners in AFCON. And really, really powerhouses on the African continent. And so just to wipe them aside 3-0 in the opening game, which then sort of made a statement, gave the country hope, and we were under pressure from the Springboks in '95 to perform and to do something.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was, and then the momentum just continued. We qualified already after our second game against Angola. Not probably our best display, but a game which was a job done type of thing.
Yeah, I think when it comes to tournament football, it is all about qualifying for the next stage, isn't it? And
yeah, it was, and maybe got the wake up call against Egypt where we lost 1-0, missed a penalty, and it didn't really go for us. But that happens in tournament football, and if you can afford to lose in the group stages, and then still progress, and top the group, because I still believe topping our group was a vital cog to us winning the trophy. Staying at altitude, not moving camp, a lot of factors that we were used to, our base camp and altitude and the work. So we played all our games at FNB.
Yeah.
You didn't have to move around, which was great, and which held us in good esteem.
Yeah, I think everybody always spoke about Clive as a great motivator, but I think we both know he was an awesome tactician as well. For to put a squad together, to select the players every game, to go and get results, without a doubt. Even after winning that semi-final 3-0 against Ghana, he had probably one of the most difficult decisions to make for the final with myself and Mark Williams.
Yeah, he did. Before that, even in their selection process, and if you remember, Lucas was injured. He wasn't fully fit at Leeds. And to think, tournament, it goes over a course of a couple of weeks. So maybe, in the early stages, which Lucas didn't play in the early matches. And then to bring him through the competition, get him fitter, work with him, physio's working, to get him into shape. So that was also a really good tactical ploy in the selection criteria of the players. And then obviously, as you say, he had a really, really hard, tough decision to make up front. And because Mark had scored, 2 goals already?
Yeah.
You had scored 1. Philemon had scored a couple. So it was the goal scoring was going across all spectrums of our attack. Yeah. So it was a really, really clever move, and based around obviously opposition too.
I always say to people, we had a 12th man as a motivation as well. The only sort of maybe downside sometimes is you had to wake up at 5 a.m. Who was that 12th man?
Yeah, Madiba was certainly with us, throughout the competition, from the night before the opening match, where he came to visit, to me meeting him occasionally. I mean, he had a big job to do. He was a busy man. He had to run our country, and you thought you got up early. I was getting phone calls all the time. He was calling me all the time. How's the team? How's this? How's that? And so a wonderful person. As you said, a real bonus to us, and a real bonus to the country. He ignited the love in the team. He ignited the love in the country. And there was no ways we could let him down. There was just absolutely no ways we could let him down.
Yeah. Can you still recall that feeling of the memory of walking out on the FNB Stadium in the final against Tunisia? I know that the capacity is supposed to be 90,000, but I think there was probably about 105, 110,000 packed stadium. No,
there was
with
no
the Boeing
space,
flying over.
Yeah. You kind of still engrossed in the moment. To take in the crowd. I took in the crowd, really, the moment of the crowd when Mark scored the second goal. Otherwise I was really, really focused on the job. And And I had some chats with our defense
Mm.
in that prior to the match and in the change room that, if you looked at Tunisia in their game where they destroyed Zambia in the semi-finals,
Mm.
they had extremely young team. They brought the Olympic
Yeah.
team, not thinking they would get that far, and to use them as experience. But the youngsters did them extremely proud, and they, with that exuberance of youth, they had the extremely quick forwards.
Mm.
So the discussion for us at the back was try not give them too much room, rather defend a little bit deeper and not give them the room in behind us too much, which Zambia tried to do and they got punished.
Mm.
And so just limit the space in behind us at a number of times, anticipate the ball over the top. And also another factor is that, our job, if we kept it a clean sheet for the duration of the game or for long period in the game, we knew the altitude would eventually get to them. They traveled up from Durban where they played the semi-final.
Mm.
And coming, you all know, when you come from Durban and you come
Yeah.
a day or two before the game, those last minutes in the game, your legs are just not there.
Mm.
Your breathing is impacted. So we also knew that. So that's why it wasn't about it was about not conceding. And we will eventually score somewhere along the line. Yeah.
Mm. So in a few years later on, obviously, coaching became secondary for you because you took up a technical role with SAFA. What was the reason behind that?
Well, I had in the early 2000s, I had attended a course in Germany, in NFC, and there I obtained the top marks in that course in Germany.
Okay.
Horst Krieger was actually one of the lecturers in that.
Mm.
And so I felt if I can get those results in Germany, I've got a chance of coaching in this game, I had some early success with Sundowns as well, league winning success with Sundowns in 2005. Then went to Amazulu, enjoyed it with Clive. Originally Clive said, when I went back to Durban in 2008, Clive called me and said, please, man, just come help me at Amazulu, come and lend your expertise at Amazulu. It's a former club of yours, and we did extremely well in the first year when I was with them. We got a top 8 position, and the team started to gel nicely, Whereas Amazulu were always a team fighting relegation, and they were always down there every year fighting relegation. And then they got some consolidation. And from that 2008 season, 8-9 season, no, 2007, 2008 season, then the 2008-9 season, the club asked me to take over from Clive, and Clive would stay on on a technical aspect. And I worked with Calvin Peterson as my assistant. And we achieved really wonderful success. That was a 2009, 2010 season. Got into a cup final. Unfortunately, we lost it. Unfortunately, the first goal was definitely. The more I watched that game, the first goal was definitely offside against Wits. And we hit the bar, and it was one of those games we just couldn't score. All our scoring exploits just went out the window that day. Unfortunately, lost it, but then we were in 2 other semi-finals, 3rd or 4th in the league. And we had a wonderful season. And then the World Cup came, and then suddenly got axed from Amazulu for no particular reason. But anyway, continued, and then I did a course, the professional coaches course the next year in South Africa. and did the course and obtained one of the highest marks.
Mm.
So I thought, okay, well, this is progressing nicely, and I was very, very happy with that. And then, I mean, there were some really top coaches. I mean, Pizza was part of that,
Mm.
that group.
Mm.
Bach was part of that group. Steve Compella was
Mm.
part of that group, and Morga was
Mm.
part of that group.
Yeah.
Abundance of Roger de Saar, all of all the
Mm.
coaches were part of
Okay.
that group that were in that professional license. And then yeah, I had a coaching thereafter, and saved Hellenic from relegation and that type of thing. But coming back to your question about Safa as a technical director,
Mm.
um, uh, Natasha Chiklis came and said, Neil, we're really looking for a new technical director. Would you be interested?
Mm.
It's a 5-year contract, and it was in 2015. And I said, "Phew, yeah, let me give it a go." And I gave it a go,
Mm.
and I quite liked the position. I enjoy working with coaches in the rest of Africa
Mm.
and FIFA, and a lot of the FIFA guys were quite impressed with what I'd set up at
Mm.
SAFA and the vision I had for 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 the association. And yeah, it was a wonderful time. At 5 years, unfortunately, COVID came, and
Mm.
so I had a 5-year contract, 2015 to 2020.
Yeah.
And then COVID came in March. I was just finishing my contract in June of 2020.
Mm.
They did offer me a new contract, but unfortunately, SAFA were under huge stress of financial stress,
Mm.
and they couldn't really offer me a decent enough package for me to stay. I thought I'd rather come out and do some coaching, but never really materialized.
Mm. What
Unfortunately,
do
I
you
love
think?
coaching.
What do you think needs to change in order for us to get success again as a national team?
I think there's programs that need to be put in place, and I put them in place.
Mm.
And they were
Okay.
funded initially. They were initially
Mm.
funded, and for as little as 10 million rand
Mm.
a year, I put in place 18 technical directors, or well, you
Mm.
can call them mini technical,
Mm.
9 women, 9 men, technical directors in each of the 9 provinces. So 2 in each
Mm.
province
Yeah.
to run the programs, to run the coaching programs,
Sure.
to run the schools football, to get
Mm.
that in place, to properly in place, to run club football, to make sure the refereeing situation and make sure the referees are
Mm.
getting looked after within the,
Yeah.
the regions and stuff like that. And there was various aspects to them, and they were doing it effectively well. And
Mm.
initially they were set up, go and get some data on what's happening within your region
Mm.
or within your province, but there are different regions within the provinces, and the FAs and LFAs and local football associations. So they did all that, and unfortunately they didn't really get accepted too well early on, because now they were
Mm.
exploring areas where the regions
Yeah.
weren't doing their job. The regions were
Mm.
not doing their job properly, getting money but not doing their job. So
Yeah.
the presidents in the various regions were trying
Mm.
to fight these guys when they were asking the questions,
Mm.
and that was one of the unfortunate things. So, but there were provinces where it really worked very, very well, and they
Mm.
were supported by some of the presidents of the regions and stuff like that. But they knew they were getting caught out,
Yeah.
and that's an area where I believe SAFA could go back in, because if I look at junior football now, even in the province of KZN and
Mm.
in Durban itself, the leagues aren't. I see really competitive football till the age of 12, and then the
Mm.
youngsters haven't got a pathway. They've got absolutely
Mm.
no pathway
But
when they go into
don't you
high
think what
school.
don't you think exactly? I was going to say that. Don't you think that contributes to the pathway where we actually need to focus more on schools? Because when the kids go to high
Yeah,
school and most of the schools don't give soccer as a sport, you're going to lose a
yeah.
lot of talent.
We have. But now, and it's quite ironic, that the high schools have now got the football playing. I mean, when I was at my high school, which was Northlands, it's now called Northwood,
Yeah.
they had not a football team. So I never played at high school football. I played club football. So there you've got the club football infrastructure, which was playing.
Yeah.
So that didn't deter the player, didn't deter me from playing. So I played schools cricket or whatever. I did hockey during the week, and then I played club football on the weekend. But now, my school now, Northwood, has like 30 football teams.
Yeah.
So it's there. Now they have to, and the Westville has teams, and the Markle House, all those schools that never had football before have a school's infrastructure. But we need to grab that school's infrastructure in all the province. A Bishops in Cape Town, what have they got? You know, and say that's where rugby and cricket have got it from the past structures. They've got those structures in place. The Kezers in Johannesburg, they've got the cricket infrastructure running through bursaries. They don't offer bursaries anymore for football and things. So we've got to create those bursaries and create an infrastructure where schools football are competing nationally. So a Westville in Durban will play against a Kes in Johannesburg. On a weekend, they travel. They must travel. And Northlands must travel to Grey College in Bloem. They've got 30 odd. They've got a really nice infrastructure in Bloem. But that highly competitive, and put the correct coaches into those structures so that these youngsters are really getting well coached at that youth level, which is critical, that under 13, 14, and 15 level. And then you have the academies built, and you have the academy structures coming in and putting those players into their structures. And then they will go to overseas. They will go into the local clubs, because in Joburg they do have that. They have that JDL league, the Johannesburg Development League, Chiefs, Pirates, Sundowns. You've got a Randburg Football Club. You've got a number of them are playing in that league, and academies too are playing in that league. So they really have a good structure. But that's got to happen in all 9 provinces. Nationally, it's got to happen. And that's where we're lacking at the moment. And nothing's happening about it.
Do you think part of the reason we don't have that many players playing abroad also is because the development structures or the pathway to get there is non-existent?
Yeah, I mean, I knew when I came out of primary school into high school, I could play a number of sports. I played provincial cricket. As I said, I played hockey provincial. I played baseball. I played softball. Played them all. But I was lucky. Football was always my number one, and I loved it. Now you get a talented youngster that can play football, but he can also play cricket, and he can also play rugby.
Yeah.
They coming to them at 12 years of age, 13, and offering them bursaries. What are their parents going to say? They're offering them bursaries to play cricket or bursaries to play rugby. What are they going to do? They are going to go and play cricket or rugby, because they at the top schools, they get a good education, and they're getting their pathway created in sport, in the sports they love. But soccer's losing out. Soccer is losing out.
Yeah, I think we've got a long way to go, isn't it? As far as the structures are placed, but it's got to come from the top, and we both know that things need to change, you know. And obviously, it's still.
And you create that. What I've done before, it's not rocket science. What I'm telling you, not rocket science. What I'm telling you, you get somebody there to drive it. You say, okay, we need sponsors for 50 million rand. Nowadays, they're buying a player for 50 million rand. Surely you can put structures in place, 50 million a year, and go and create this infrastructure where bursaries are and a school infrastructure for that high-end football to be played. And then you'll see a better Bafana, a more accomplished professional league, local league, and then things will happen.
So I mentioned earlier, obviously, your other passions now are bowls and golf, but are you still involved in some way in soccer?
Yeah, I'm fortunate enough to be in a really, really lovely program with my brother Mark's son Quinton, and Mark's also in the program, as are you, as is Andre, and as is Gavin Hunt and Doc Kamala, where we embarking on, which is also an area where is needed, and that's the coaching of the coaches, and that's school teachers.
Sure.
Coaching the school teachers. They come in, we give lectures on what it is to be a coach, from what it is to be a young coach, what to look for in the kids, going right through from the enjoyment factor to the development factor to the performance factor. Those three critical areas that we discuss in the lectures. And then as we build the lectures up into different phases, going through all what you determine the licenses, it's not a licensed course where it's a lectures. So they gain the knowledge, they get the material. We go through all the facets, I go through all the facets of the principles of defending, the principles of attack, transitions and all that, hypercompensation and all those areas, what you need, periodization and the coach and the factors that influence coaching at different levels. And at the same time, having coached at a high level in the professional, these coaches also want to know what it is. What does a professional coach do? What are their cycles? And we talk about that as well. So we give them an opportunity to have a dream, maybe one or two want to become a professional coach. Otherwise, they go back and they get given equipment. So and when they do come for the lectures, they taxied in from the various townships. And they come for the lecture, they get fed, and they go back and they get given equipment. So there's various generals like you and I, but there's also captains like Warber that goes out, and then they watch what they do, and they take all that knowledge, and are they doing their coaching lessons and the various areas where they come from. Also, how to put league structures and incorporate, because in the various regions and districts and schools, you need to play league. You need to play league formats. So they get taught how to develop a league within your zone or whatever.
Yeah, it's got to be competitive.
Got to be competitive at the end of the day, and then from that they pick teams, representative teams in various schools, and they play a little tournament at the end of it.
But I think it's a vital area to impact, because in order for the kids to develop, your coaches need to be educated in the right way.
And in the right way, and driven in the right way. And also coupled with that, we talk about gender-based violence and all the different aspects, how to pinpoint that a youngster's getting abused, or there's abuse in the family. So all these criteria get put in. So we crying out for corporates to get involved and to come on board with us in our program. And you in Cape Town, I'm in Durban. You can do it in Cape Town and with me. I'll fly down to Cape Town. We do it in conjunction. You come to do it and whatever. Doc, I go to Joburg. It's existing one. So we travel around the country, so it can be countrywide, and we bring in all the different role players and ex-players as well to act as the captains of the industry. So,
Sure. Well, I want to thank you for this opportunity. I think a lot of people obviously see Neil Tovey from a distance, but to get insight into the man himself is always great. You're looking good. I think post-football is always important to look after you as an individual.
Looks might be deceiving, but anyway. I'm really, really living my life in terms of that coaching thing now. And let's hope we can get it really, really going and get abundance of of us out there coaching the coaches and the school teachers. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you, Neil. I hope you have a great day further. I know there's a few things on the agenda, like playing bowls and around the golf. And I'll see you next time on the fairways.
100%. Good to be with you, Shane. Enjoy your golf down this weekend.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Our daily opinion on sport, which you're entitled to.